Catherine and Rodney had been married for a few years. Often, when people enter family life, they tend to drift away from old friendships and social circles. But that wasn't how things unfolded for Catherine, especially when it came to her bond with Nadine. The two had been inseparable since their high school days, and even after Catherine got married, that connection didn't fade. Nadine was the kind of person who, despite her naturally shy demeanor, had a vivid imagination that often led her to hatch wild, sometimes completely impractical plans. Over the years, Catherine had become quite skilled at gently steering her friend away from the more outrageous ones. Interestingly, after Catherine's marriage, Nadine's spontaneous side mellowed a bit. She stopped involving Catherine in her more unpredictable ideas, perhaps recognizing that her friend's priorities had shifted with marriage. Still, they continued to spend time together regularly, though Catherine naturally had to adjust her schedule to accommodate her new family responsibilities. However, things felt different when it came to including Rodney in their meetups. Catherine found it hard to balance her marital relationship with the kind of outings she used to enjoy with Nadine. Rodney wasn't particularly fond of loud or crowded events, and his calm, reserved personality clashed with Nadine's occasional bursts of eccentric enthusiasm. One Saturday, during one of their regular strolls in the park, Nadine lit up with excitement. "There's an amazing concert next weekend, we have to go," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with anticipation. Catherine agreed, though with a bit of hesitation, adding that she'd only go if they made it back home early. "Of course," Nadine promised. "We'll be back by 10. I'm so looking forward to it. Who knows, maybe I'll even meet someone." Her voice trailed off into a dreamy sigh. It wasn't the first time Nadine had expressed this longing. Most of their friends had settled down, and she often felt like the odd one out. She tried just about every method to find a partner, from scrolling through dating apps to striking up awkward conversations with strangers while waiting in grocery store lines. Despite her efforts, her natural shyness often held her back, making it hard to follow through even when someone did show interest. She tried to appear more outgoing than she truly was, but it didn't always work out. When the day of the concert finally arrived, Catherine reassured Rodney she'd be home by 11:30. As a gesture of inclusion, she even asked if he wanted to come along, knowing he probably wouldn't. Predictably, he declined, preferring a quiet evening at home. Meeting Nadine outside the venue, Catherine was momentarily taken aback. Her friend's outfit was bold, vibrant, form-fitting, and impossible to ignore. It was clear Nadine was ready to turn heads that night. Catherine, a little uneasy, asked what kind of night they were in for and how they should respond if approached by strangers. Should they simply brush off any unwanted attention? How should she act in a situation like that? Nadine laughed and reassured her that she'd be by her side the whole time and that she had nothing to worry about. But Catherine's comfort didn't last long. Within the first hour, she noticed Nadine chatting animatedly with a man she'd just met, and then another stranger approached, walking toward Catherine. It became immediately clear that Nadine had no intention of sticking to the plan. Catherine felt a pang of disappointment but didn't want to cause a scene. As the men reached them, Nadine leaned over and whispered, "Just be chill. Be friendly." Reluctantly, Catherine went along with it. The two men introduced themselves, clearly interested. They offered to buy drinks. Nadine was already captivated by one of them, laughing easily and nodding to everything he said. Catherine, meanwhile, was approached by Max. He was polite and charming, and though she wasn't exactly comfortable, she engaged in a light, respectful conversation. There was no pushiness, just a casual back and forth. But her mind was already elsewhere, thinking about Rodney and how this wasn't what she'd agreed to. A few days later, Nadine texted, suggesting they meet for dinner at their favorite restaurant. Something about her tone felt off, and Catherine couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing. When she arrived at the restaurant, that gut feeling turned out to be spot on. Just as she sat down and asked Nadine what was going on, the two men from the concert appeared and approached their table. Catherine's heart sank. It dawned on her in that moment, this wasn't just dinner with a friend. Nadine had orchestrated a surprise double date without telling her. The wave of emotions that followed was overwhelming: confusion, betrayal, frustration, all flooding in at once. It reminded her of the kind of impulsive schemes Nadine used to come up with back in high school. Only now the stakes were different. She wasn't the carefree teenager she once was. She had a husband, a home, and a life that no longer had space for games like this. Nain had always been full of unexpected suggestions, but this time, her idea was something altogether different. Something that subtly shifted the ground beneath Quasa's feet. It was clear that Nain was playing a different kind of game now, one that Quasa didn't fully understand until it was too late. She had been ready to question her friend's intentions to call her out, but before she could, Max approached, wearing a warm, disarming smile that immediately softened the tension in Quasa's heart. In that fleeting moment, all the anger she had been harboring dissolved. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, light and engaging, pulling her in like a current. Somewhere between the laughter and the glances, Quasa did something impulsive. She slipped off her wedding ring. She told herself it was just for the evening. She wanted, just for a little while, to feel unbound, to escape the suffocating expectations of her routine life. Especially in the presence of someone as effortlessly charming as Max. Days later, she found herself meeting him again, this time in secret. A quiet date that felt more like an escape than a betrayal, yet she kept it hidden from her husband. She told herself it was harmless, that she would stop after this. But that's never how these things go. With each encounter, her resolve weakened. What started as brief moments of distraction turned into something deeper. Walks turned into dinners turned into lingering touches, and soon Quasa couldn't deny what was happening inside her. She was falling for Max. Her mind told her to end it, to walk away, but her heart had started whispering otherwise. Back home, her husband Rodney began to notice the subtle shifts in her. She wasn't the same, she was distracted, her mind often elsewhere, and she had grown distant. One night, she came home far later than usual. Rodney had been pacing the floor, worry building to the point where he nearly went out looking for her. But just as he was about to grab his coat, the door opened. Relief washed over him when he saw her. He pulled her into a tight embrace, grateful that she was safe. But as he buried his face in her hair, a scent drifted up, cologne that didn't belong to him. He didn't say anything right away, didn't confront her then and there. Instead, he decided to pay closer attention. Later that evening, after she had washed up and changed into a nightgown, something caught his eye, something that couldn't be ignored. A faint but unmistakable hickey on her chest. Given how long it had been since they were intimate, it felt like a slap in the face. He stayed calm. In a voice steady and sure, he asked her if she was seeing someone else. The question struck her like lightning. She froze, caught off guard. Her lips parted slightly, her eyes brimming with tears, but no words came immediately. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the room. Then trembling she broke. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted what had happened, not just once but again and again. She spoke of how it began with innocent conversation, how she never intended to betray him, how she lost control. She confessed to the secret meetings, the late-night rendezvous, and even the deepening feelings. She said she was sorry. Said it over and over. Rodney stood silent as her words poured out. His face gave nothing away. He was absorbing every detail, trying to make sense of what his marriage had become. Quasa could barely meet his eyes, but when she did, they were full of sorrow and silent hope. She didn't dare ask for forgiveness. She knew what she had done. But still, in the depths of her gaze, there was a desperate plea. Eventually Rodney exhaled, a long, slow, painful sigh. And then he said it. "No, Quasa. This is the end. I can't forgive you." His voice wasn't angry, just tired. Final. He told her to pack her things, to get dressed and leave. More tears came. She tried to protest, to plead, but he wouldn't listen. He walked out of the room and left her alone with the quiet and her suitcase. That night, just before midnight, she left. Rodney didn't need to know the details of what happened or why she made the choices she did. To him it didn't matter anymore. The trust was broken, and divorce was the only path that made sense. In the days that followed, Quasa mourned what she had lost. Friends tried to comfort her, telling her that maybe it was all meant to be, that sometimes life leads us into painful situations to push us toward something better. She clung to those words as she thought of Max. At least she had him now, at least the one man who made her feel alive would still be by her side. She reached out, hoping to build something real now that the marriage was officially over. But Max wasn't who she thought he was. When he found out that she had been married the whole time, that she had kept it from him, he felt betrayed. He recoiled, not from her past but from her deceit. And then just like that he vanished. He stopped responding to her messages. Ignored her calls. That was when Quasa finally felt the full weight of what she had done, not just the loss of a marriage but the illusion of something better. Now she was truly alone, and all that remained were memories, silence, and regret.